Hey everyone! Today I'm sharing a little crafty experiment I made with using stamps to make molds for casting resin. I thought of two ways to do it, so I'll show both and tell you some of the things I learned in the process. The first is the easiest. I just used a two-part silicone mold maker. There are several brands that make these. I tried a few and they generally work great. In a pack you would get 2 pots of soft clay, and usually all you need to do is take even amounts from each of the colors and mix them together till they are completely blended. Then you just impress the object you want to cast into the mixed dough and let it cure. In this experiment I used red rubber stamps. They are generally sturdier than clear silicone stamps and are etched deeper. If you're using two-part silicone molds like this, you could probably get a pretty good result with clear stamps as well. But for the second technique I'll show in a bit, I wouldn't recommend it. Once the dough was well mixed, I simply stamped into the dough and waited until it cured. And you can see that it did a good job in catching all the details. I probably could have pressed the stamp a bit harder, but still, it worked beautifully. My second experiment was using hot glue to create a mold. I got my glue gun good and hot, so the glue is very runny, and carefully applied the glue to the stamp. As you can see, I use this tapping motions. That's the best way I found to get the glue into the details. It takes some patience, especially if you choose a detailed stamp like this one. Covering it all can take a few minutes. Something I learned the hard way is that if you're using a mountain stamp like this one, you really want to avoid the glue reaching the mount, that gray foam-like part. The glue will bind to it and you might have to cut a bit of the foam off to remove it. But as long as you keep the glue only on the red rubber, you won't have a problem. We want the bottom of the mold to be as even as possible, so just let the glue level itself. You can help it a bit with a heat tool. Just be careful that the glue doesn't get too runny and drip over to the mounting foam. When the hot glue cures, it gets a bit cloudy with this matte finish. That's how you know that you can demold your stamp. It may still be a little bit warm to the touch. You can wait until it's completely cool. I was just a bit too impatient. I pulled the stamp and mold gently apart. It can take a bit of wiggling because you don't want either of them damaged. But in the end you'll get a pretty cool mold. Red rubber stamps are generally heat resistant, so I knew the hot glue wouldn't damage them. I'm not sure if it would work with clear stamps. My gut feeling is that clear stamps might bond to the glue, or they might just snap when you pull them out of the cured glue. It would really depend on the manufacturer. Clear stamps come in very different qualities. I'd say that if you try it, I'd probably start with a stamp I don't mind damaging. For the casting, I used two-part resin. I wanted my snowflakes to glow in the dark, so I added some glow-in-the-dark powder to the resin. That's what you see me mix in. It's completely optional, obviously, I just think it's cool. I tried casting two types of resin. A quick cure white resin by Smooth On and ice resin, which is a slow cure clear resin. For me, the white resin worked like a charm. It was definitely harder to get the resin out of the glue mold, but it worked and it looks great. The clear resin didn't work as well. I did manage to get a couple of the snowflakes out of the glue mold, but some of them just bonded with it. It may be because it's a slow cure resin, and it may be about the material itself. I have to experiment some more for that. In general, I would definitely call this experiment a success. The hot glue molds are not perfect. They'll usually have a few air bubbles and might miss some of the details. But at least with the snowflakes, I wasn't bothered by it. It actually adds some character in my opinion. If you're looking for accuracy, the two-part mold is definitely better. But, expenses. I don't expect the glue molds to last very long, but I already used them a few times, and so it definitely covers the few minutes that it took me to make one. The resulting snowflakes are very thin, and depending on the resin you use, they can have some flexibility or be very stiff and maybe a little brittle. I plan to add string to some of them to make decorations, but they can be used in a million ways. They're thin enough to be embellishments on cards and will add beautiful texture and detail to mixed media projects. In fact, I think I might use some of them in next week's project. I hope you'll give this a try. If you do, please let me know how it went. I'd love to hear what you come up with. If you have any questions, please ask me in the comments below. There's a list of materials in my blog if you want to know what I used. It's linked in the description. Thank you for watching, and till next time, I hope you have a wonderful week.